perhaps if I can just start by giving you a little of my history. I took up dancing at the age of 20. At the age of 21, I decided I want to be a dancing teacher. I then taught for the next 7 years until the Beatles came along. We had a very, very big school, and we decided at that time we needed to do something else because the business was starting to go down, and we got into the competitive side of the business. And as Wolfgang just said, we had some wonderful times competing around the world, and we did quite well in the Latin American field. And I'd like to thank Miggy very much and your team for taking on the very difficult job of translating, because some of the words I understand that I've used, the technical terms like body flight, don't really work in German. So we have to find words that suit us. Of course, if you said to an Englishman in the street, what is body flight, they would have no idea. It would be like a foreign language to them. So we all have this difficulty, and it is understanding the requirements that make us the dancers we are and what we want to produce in our training of the couples. Now, why have I called the book A Technique and not The Technique or just Technique of? A Technique, because there are many techniques to dance a figure beautifully. I remember asking my technical teacher, a man by the name of Malcolm Stewart, when I was doing my professional exams, about the technique of a figure that was not in the book. And I showed it to him, and he said, "Do you think that is beautiful?" And I said, "Yes, I think that's a beautiful way of doing this figure." He said, "Then that's the correct technique." So you see, what we're looking for is something that has rhythm, which is numero uno. We want rhythm and style. And if we have those two things going for us, then we can say we have the technique. So I remember, again, a little history, because I think it's so important to know where these things come from. I was on the Imperial Society committee when we were deciding to change the technique, slightly of the ballroom side, a lot on the Latin side. And on the committee with me were Bill Irvin, he was the chairman, Peter Eggleton and Anthony Hurley and some other members. And Anthony said, "Well, we're going to have quite a problem, aren't we? Because Peter, Bill and I all did a link in the tango, and we all did it differently, and we all won the world championship." So you see, even on two steps, there is a difference of opinion. So I know, looking round the world of dance, and this is why it's beautiful in a way, isn't it? That we have, say, a final, a world final, European final, British final, German Open final. And you look at those 6 couples, and we know they're coming from different countries now, but sometimes I think they almost come from different planets, because they are dancing so differently. Because I think we're reaching a stage where we're dancing more from the heart and not just keeping the frame and saying that's what it must be the whole time. So I can quite accept that there are many different interpretations of a figure, particularly when we come to advanced work like telespins, teleswivels and so on. But as long as we have a guide that people can pick up the book and say, okay, we now understand the actual basic movement of that figure, how we can do it, and then you can polish it to your own requirements. And that, of course, is essential, I think, in training, that we can look at a couple, realize their values, their feelings, and actually guide them through to what they have an ability for, rather than trying to make them do what I feel. Yes? This, I think, at the highest level, is saying to a couple, okay, what do you want to do here? What do you feel? What do you want to do? And then as a teacher, you're trying to help them achieve what they want to do, their feeling. Now, that is difficult at the lower levels, and that's perhaps where the book is very useful, that it starts people with a sound technical knowledge which they can then develop through your help. What have I done in the foot position column? In the original books, we seem to move around. We have the fact that somebody's doing a heel turn in the foot position, and whether it's a pivot or not would come in the amount of turn. So I've tried to put in the foot position column or line the actual movement that has a name, like a pivot, like a heel turn, heel pull, whatever, and always try to put it in that, which helped me to understand it much better. Because once I say left foot back, pivot in there, I know what I'm going to be doing. So we discuss the foot positions, we discuss the alignment, amount of turn, footwork, and rise and fall. Footwork, we have a few times where we say toe turned in, not many. My feeling, as I put in the book, is that really on every backward turn, we have a slight toe turn in. Yes? So I've said that is general. But there are many positions where we actually use a lot more toe turned in. For example, on the pivots, which is also in today's original technique books, that we are turning the toe in. So that will come in the book as well. And also the fact that then the footwork is very much outside edge of toe rather than just toe heel. So I've used a lot more outside edge and inside edge. Now, where does it happen elsewhere? Thinking of what I've just said about alignment, I believe that if I'm dancing a good feather finish, and I really have this pointing to my corner, that if I just take the step with a straight foot like that, my actual movement now is tending to pull me more to the wall. So how can I keep myself on this idea? I remember Stephen Hillier saying once that the best way to practice the basic foxtrot is in a hotel corridor. Then you have to go along the line of dance. You have 3 meters maybe, and that's it. Yes? So think that way. So once I have established my corner, if I turn my toe in on that and use outside edge of toe, now I can track myself through very comfortably in the direction I want to go. A definition of rhythm, again, is moving when you want to move. Yes? The definition of balance is moving when you want to move and not when you have to move. Yes? So if I said I'm going that way and finish up going this way, I'm not going where I want to go. So my balance is not good. My rhythm is not good. So this is, again, in the book, and I hope if you read it, you can find the reasons why I've said these things. Many times we have a requirement to overturn. Now, if you say to Bill Irving, I'm going to make half a turn on a feather finish, he'd jump on you or throw you out of the studio, wouldn't he? Yes? His mantra is always 3/8 is the maximum. But if we're going to do a figure that's very popular, say like a tumble turn, how do we achieve a half a turn? Because that's what most couples will want to do from a feather finish, isn't it? Feather finish and tumble turn. So, if we can, please, make you uncomfortable first of all. If I don't think of my feet, and we just swing the feather finish to create the tumble turn, 2, 3, and 1, you see, she's not enjoyed that at all because she has not done anything for herself. I feel she has blocked herself because she's surviving the figure and not creating her own femininity and her own basic rhythm. Now, if I do what I'm saying to do and use my normal feather finish, but use my foot that way, I don't think you hardly saw it, did you? You see, people get very frightened when I say to them, you've got to dance like that. Yes? I can't dance looking like that. But you don't look like that. You're moving. You're going through those positions. Yes? So if I try very hard to create that rather strange-looking feeling, we have got ourselves around and you are reacting to me, which is what leading and following is about, isn't it? Yes? Thank you very much. So here in the foot position, we have the knowledge the foot's going sideways, going forward in CBMP, outside partner, but the footwork will also give you that it's an outside edge of toe there to overturn. But it's also very helpful in a smaller amount when you're doing the normal feather finish, as I showed you, to get me on the correct alignment. When I've discussed lead and follow, it's again in the first part of the book, the definition of lead is to make someone come with somebody, yes? It's to come with you. It's to lead the lady to move with you, yes? And to follow, very interesting words. Now, it's difficult, and perhaps you could translate this bigger for me, is the lady reacts to this and is true to the consequence. Could you say that in Deutsch? Have you got it there? Yes? Could you tell everybody what it says? Right. Yes? Now, what does that mean? It means that if I have done something here, the lady is going to react to it. She's not following on. She's not coming after me. I'm not walking out in front of her and saying, come on. Yes? That is not lead and follow. Perhaps out of all the technical sayings we have in our original technique, this is the only one that I wish could have been changed and become action and reaction. Yes? The man makes an action, the lady reacts to it. So again, we're not trying to lead the lady, we're trying to make an action. And everything I'm discussing here is the action of a foot in a position for the lady to react to what is going to happen here now to make the changeover come to there. Yes? Continuing on sway for a moment, we use the word generally. Sway really is only what comes from swing to control the movement or the direction, like motorbike going around a corner, you're leaning in, plane flying, banks over. We do the same thing to control the centrifugal force. So we have to know the whole time what we're doing with the sway, but there are other types of body inclination that we're using that do not come from swing. For example, an oversway. We say we're swaying, and I've left that in the book, it is sway. But I made a comment that all those are inclination of the body from the standing leg through the use of the knees and the hips to create the sway line. Yes? So that is not true sway because we're not swinging. We are creating an inclination of the body. The other effect is the metronome effect that we still call sway, but it is not true sway. When I think of that, I'm thinking chassis roll maybe, where I've created sway to here. Now I'm using a metronome effect, tick-tock, coming over the top to create the sway to my right side. Yes? So that gives the actual word still of sway to all those movements, but it is noted in the book that these are not true sways. It's either a metronome effect or an inclination of the body from the standing leg. Now, why do we talk that way? Why bother to explain that? Because I always ask questions when I was having lessons. I want to know why. I want to know why. And if the teacher can tell me why, then I'm much clearer in why I'm doing it how to do it, and that I want to do it then. Yes? How often do we teach somebody and they seem to resent doing something? They resent it. They try not to do it, even though you're asking them to. Why? Because there's a lack of knowledge of the reasons and so on. So if they have those pieces of knowledge, then I think you are helping them a lot more. Contra-body movement, we've talked about a lot. We have discussed that now, and I hope you can understand that, the differences between dancing, contra-body movement. Oh, there's one I left out, wasn't there? Could you dance with me again, please? When we dance the contra-body movement in that natural turn, we discussed the power through the knees. What happens if we dance a chassé, for example, just chassing out to the side here, and I have to move outside, I'm in CBMP outside partner, and I think, okay, let's use my normal CBM. Oh, yeah, thank you. Got the noise effects? Not a happy lady. So, what does it mean? That our CBM is very little and very, very late. I must get on the foot and then create my sway. Yes? Thank you. Now she's a happy lady, you see? So that's my life. I'm trying to make ladies happy. It's amazing what they do for you when you make them happy, gentlemen. They'll do the washing up, they'll go out and do the shopping for you. So think about, gentlemen, the whole time. Respect the lady. Where is she? If you're turning on the outside step, going into her like that, you're uncomfortable, she's uncomfortable, she won't like it. There cannot be good dancing if you're stressed. Music. I've given in the charts, when you look at it, the actual bar count, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, and so on. I've given the slows and quicks in the dances that is necessary, and I've given the beat values where it is necessary. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, for example. So I'm doing a slow foxtrot, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yeah? We have to understand each count, how many beats we're using, how many bars we're using. In today's choreography, everybody's trying to phrase their choreography. Maybe not successfully in the competition because floor craft demands change, and once you change, you're out of your choreographic phrase. But most couples then will go back onto the 2-bar phrasing, so you get the strong bar, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, and try to get back into the feeling of the leading bar music. And if you look at the book, you'll see I try to design it around the phrase values of a figure and where the beats are split and so on. Again, with rhythm, there's so many different rhythms you can do on one figure. We've just done a tumble turn. My love of a tumble turn is to use the and count late, so I can hang on to my last step as long as possible. Then I can release it. So if I'm counting that, I'm counting slow, quick, quick, and slow, slow. Yes? But I've seen world champions do slow, quick, and quick, and they prefer to do it that way. Now, I cannot tell them they're wrong. I don't think they are wrong. It is their choice. So again, a technique book is guidance. It gives you the possibilities. And where possible in the notes underneath, I've said other rhythms can be. Yes? So again, as trainers, I think we must look at each individual couple and see what is most suitable for them. Another expression we have, flight. Body flight, as I say, it doesn't translate very freely, but it doesn't work in English either for somebody who has not had it explained to them. When we're talking about body flight, we're talking about the movement through the air. Flight is motion through the air. We're talking about that movement by holding a foot pressure on the standing foot for as long as possible until you can lower vertically. And I think perhaps one of the best ways to show that is an open figure like a weave waltz. So I'm dancing into it. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Yes? I have found a position in which, before I lower, I'm flighting my body weight across the floor. Yeah? What helps me to do that? Many things. First of all, the foot position. That when I'm coming through into that fifth step of a weave, for example, I want a very strongly turned in right toe on that moment to create the feeling of center of my body over the foot for as long as possible to get into my flight. If I have my foot from here, 1, 2, by the time I've got to there, now I'm weaker because I'm now between my feet and I haven't got any power in that right foot any longer. You will find in a figure that, like a telemark, and now this caused some conversations at home with the leading coaches. One said to me, but that's not the original technique. And my answer was, well, it is, because all I've suggested is what happens between the second step and the third step, and all the original technique gave me is right foot to the side. 1, 2. Okay, now what happens from there? I've got my right foot. Do I just want to go 3 like that and feel uncomfortable in my balance? Or do I want to try to get my center over my right foot? Now I can flight when I want to. I can move when I want to. And that is extremely easy to create the action and therefore the lead for the lady to react from. Yes? Many figures like that. So again, one of the main things is where is the foot in relation to your center of weight? Yeah? I think the main thing that changed me in my concept of competitive dancing, because when we did standard dancing as competitors, people used to come up and say, very good, Jeffrey, very good. You don't do anything wrong, but you look like a dance teacher out there and not a competitor. Bang. How do I change that? Nobody could tell me until I went to Peter and Brenda, and it was Brenda the first time. She said, don't you understand how to be a competitor? I said, no, that's why I'm here. I want to know how to be a competitor. She said, put your tie on your right knee. And I put my arms up and I felt great. Before, my weight was between my feet, my tie was between my feet, and when I started off, I was already tucked in with my right side, so I was small. And we're talking 40 years ago, most probably. So this is nothing new, you know, this is from way, way back, because Peter and Brenda, I always felt, was so far of everybody else in technical knowledge, thought for the future, and beautiful rhythm. Creating that center of the body, so you're absolutely balanced through that line. Then you have the possibility to move when you want to move, you have your balance and your rhythm. So all I'm trying to think about is transferring my body weight through my center onto my standing knee. And the technique is built around that. So when I'm using my foot in this way on an outside change, or 4, 5, 6 of the weave, I'm trying to create that center, yeah, to move out with my flight. Okay? So that's how we flight, through foot pressure. Not foot rise anymore, because we've come to our up position. Now, another thing on rise and fall that I discussed through many of the figures is I've changed the word to commence to rise through 1. Continue to rise on 2 and 3, lower at the end of 3. Not commence to rise at the end of 1. And that is not so important on the commencing. But when we say rise at the end of 1, up on 2 and 3, that gave me a lot of problems as a young teacher. You know, what's it mean? Rise at the end of 1, up on 2 and 3. So I was doing everything rather like that. yes, because I was trying to be technically accurate. So I've changed that again to rise through 1 to be up and 2 and 3, but also there's a note there that says, although we're saying up on 2 and 3, there is a very small amount of rise between the end of 1 and into 2. And the technical reason for that, I believe, is that once I have got my feeling of rising through this foot, this leg is straightish. It is not lock straight, of course, but because it is straight, it's still projecting me slightly upwards. Can you see what I mean? Yes, you can try this afterwards if you like. Get the feeling you're here, you're rising, then as this right foot is continuing the pressure to give me my slow into my first quick, it has given me a slight more rise as I'm coming out of the foot. So we have still a very soft feeling in that, and it is, I chose that word to try and help the understanding that you're going through it and on, rather than rising at the end of it. Yes? Okay? Any questions on anything I've said so far? No? Yes, madam. Yes. Yeah, well, no, it doesn't begin in the upper body, because that would give me even more problems, you see. What I'm saying is that we really get onto the foot first, and now we're using it through here, yes? So it is very, very late, and therefore very slight in that. Is everybody happy on that? So I'm not changing it to an upper body lead, because I'm going to kill my partner with that, or she will kill me afterwards when she gets me home. She'll tell me that I wasn't doing it very well, and I want to feel that I create... Why again? When we do a chassis or weave or any movement that takes us to be outside partner on the following step, our body weight is moving along the line of dance, isn't it? So our next step has to be outside, and it is still going that way, out of my left foot. So really, I'm coming off the last 2 or 3 toes to the outside of the foot, to the little toe, as I'm walking through to that position. No longer am I able to do the natural feeling of coming through my big toe, which is my commencement of CBM. So I've lost my big toe, yes? And I'm going on, I get my weight change, then I can put my knee in action into it and create the swing to come out. Another saying that goes back so long, Peter told me about this, and it came from Charles Theobald. He was one of the originators, talking about CBM and talking about body rhythm. And his thought is on a feather step, for example, that you're creating your CBM through here as a body separation, then you explode into the outside partner position. And that gave a very strong effect of creation of that outside with the left side leading. Yes? So you can see it goes back in time also, but it's not so obvious because of the change of hold. But today it's so obvious. Yes? And we must apply these rules so much more. When you think of, may you help me again? Don't have to dance with me this time, just throw me around the room. The martial arts, the fighting sports, it's done mainly, like judo and so on, as pulls rather than push. Now a lady, if you try to push me over, yes? Yes, I can resist that. Yes? Now, if you want to pull me, she's got me. Yes? So, no, you did it very well. Strong right arm, must be a teacher. I thought my wife had the strongest right arm in the business, but I think I met somebody else now. All you ladies grow with that tremendous muscle, don't you? So when we're thinking about it, what are we doing with our right hand in the business? We are holding the lady in the worst possible position, aren't we? Right up there now. It's beautiful. It's great because it's released our rhythm. It's released the possibility for the lady to really add to the dance. But the slightest feeling of change of her through here, she can't resist that. Yeah? Now force yourself to stay there. You can't. You know, it's just there, isn't it, the whole time? So please be aware, gentlemen, all of the time, when you're creating your actions, you're doing it through the CBM or you're doing it late, like I just showed you, through still the use of the knee and the swing, you are not leading with the arms. Okay, thank you. That I've tried to bring out in the book in many different places, and I hope you can see that where there's a slight CBM and so on. Right, now I think I've covered most of the definitions at the beginning of the book. Oh, yeah. Missed a few. Let's go into the technical definitions now. We have foot position. And in foot position, we have various things like contra body movement position, Körpergegenbewegungsstellung, near? Near. Okay. When we're going into CBMP, what do we mean? We are walking on the line of the standing foot. Yes? Okay. That's quite clear, and it's what it's always meant. Forward and across in CBMP and promenade position. Yes? We give promenade position. Now let's discover what is promenade position, because I've made a statement in the book that some of you might say, no, that doesn't work for me. That's your choice. But is it the most beautiful? Then I think we must look at it and see. So I'm sorry I'm going to disturb you again. Let's take just something we can walk through to start with. Let's take a promenade in the tango, a closed promenade. Yeah? Now, first of all, we have to get to promenade position. And what does the promenade position mean? It means that the lady's center line is on the side of the man's right hip and body line. That's how I defined it. Now, I always was taught that it was like a V shape, but I think it's much more like a Y shape that you are lightly behind. So if I put very gently into a promenade position, I feel that is the promenade position that I would affect in the tango. Now I'm able to walk in my promenade position without disturbing her hips. If I've got this feeling, it is more of a V shape. When we get to the second step, we got big, big problems. My hips are getting bigger every year, and, and I'm giving them a problem. Now, again, I want to be able to walk with that feeling of freedom in front of my lady and not having to lead her. Yes? Because as soon as that right hand tightens up, we're not going to have good technique in every other part of our body. So that's my definition of promenade position. Fall away position, exactly the same. If we're dancing a fall away, I'm going to, let's do a foxtrot one perhaps this time, I'm going to swing my right hip into the lady's center. Yes? I've swung my hip into the lady's center. It is a swinging movement to that position. I'm not just turning myself because she doesn't know what is happening. Martin is lost now. She'll do it because she'll know her program. Ooh, I hate that word because that reminds me of a computer. It will not allow you to make a mistake. It will not allow you to change anything. It's got to come out the same way. And dancing's human. Dancing has to have changes. So we want to feel that all I'm doing is making an action to allow the lady to create her movement through her own body weight in the direction I've asked her to go. All I'm really doing in lead is giving her direction. Counter promenade and counter fall away position, we're doing the same idea, but the lady will be changing her body position to become the man's side and the man the lady. If we think about a weave action in waltz into counter promenade, 1, 2, 3, 1. Now you're a bit of a naughty girl that time, weren't you? Because I shouldn't have told you what I was going to do, should I? Now again, you see, ladies, you must understand that us men are a little lazy. Most of you married ones have found out already, I'm sure. That if my wife says, but I'll do the dishes after the meal, I say, okay, do them. So once the lady does something for herself, because she knows it's coming, I give in. I'm lazy. I let her get on with it and just sort of go along afterwards. So I'd love you not to know the figure this time. Yeah? That we get our promenade and we just swing. Whoops, no, we didn't do it then. So I wasn't good enough. So we're going through from here and we create the line and so on we go through. Oh, well, that was lovely, you see. We're a team now. So all those definitions I've given in the book to try to help to understand that shaping. And again, all I ask is that afterwards, when you go back to your own studios, to try some of these things and say, do I think that way? If you have your thoughts and you can see your couples, that there's no distortion in the hips, you can just walk through, great. The next thing is the word forward and across. Now, when I first did a tango, I understood forward and across along the line of dance, and I finished up with locked thighs. And that's one of the worst things you can do for your hips, because you'll always finish with the hips out the back, and you cannot get them underneath you. So what does it mean? Forward and across. The word is forwards. That's the first thing. When we think of a forward step, we're moving forward from the standing foot. CBMP, we're walking forwards on the line of the standing foot. Forward and across, depending on the person's physicality, length of leg, etc., you are stepping across 5 to 10 centimeters, you can say, over that way. Yeah? Now, if I'm thinking of this in tango particularly, this changes my action. It still gives me that same foot position. Left of the side in promenade, right foot forward and across in CBMP and promenade position. I've gone that way. Now, left of the side and slightly forward. That way to close, slightly back. Yep. So my action now is much more 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And that way I can stop my action to make tango. The other way, most couples tend to go 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3. And they're going almost into flight, getting a swinging motion because they're taking it on the line. Think about that and see if that gives you satisfaction of dancing it. Same footwork, you still need an inside edge to stop. I don't know if some of you might remember the gentleman from Holland called Thomas Bus, who made of dance history. And over the Alex Moore letter service, really, he sent me and the tango said originated in Middle Europe, in countries like Hungary, with the Romanovs, with the gypsy families. They would dance to this music. When they emigrated to South America, to Argentina mainly, they took the dance with them, the music with them, and that's where the dance developed into the tango we know today. But the original literal translation of that music was the dance that stops. Now that's very interesting for me, because it's history again, and then we know why these things come. The dance that stops. And when you think about it, again, Bill Irving standing on the stage at Blackpool, monumental stillness that he wanted in the tango. Yes, a monumental stillness. And that still, I believe, must apply today to make an action. So whenever, perhaps you can help me, Martina, again, whenever we create a movement into promenade position, we have to be there early enough that we can create the feeling all the time that we have time. Hope you enjoyed that. Yeah. Now, we're moving, and I'll do my technique. Yeah. I love your hair, my sweetheart.
Sorry.
Beautiful. But it worked, you see, it worked. You didn't do it. You didn't do it. I did it for you. No, don't worry. Don't worry. No, it was very good. It proved the point, you see. Now, my theory again on this is that I can make the lady quicker if she lets me do it than she can do it on her own. Yes? Now, there's nothing against the lady, but two bodies are better than one, yes? And if we can create that activity through the base, not through the arms, because I did it in the arms, she'd have no speed, and then the program will kick in, and the lady would do her own thing. Now, can you see what we're doing on this actual promenade here? I'm not twisting myself, because from here, I'm actually walking in front of her. Now my leg is turning her, and we close in. So my arms are virtually doing nothing at all to her. Wah, wah, bah. Yes? So again, you get away from this feeling of using arms. Your arm is going with the lady, and you're using the base, and so on. So that, thank you. Yes, thank you. That is really, again, how I've laid the book out, thinking of the rhythm coming from the base, coming from the knees and the feet, up through the body, so you can get separations in the body, you can get the feeling, you can do different things, but you see, hold, again, I've defined as holding a tray of drinks. Yes? Beautiful crystal glass, the best champagne, and I'm holding that the whole time. I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. And if you ask anybody to hold a tray and pass drinks around the room, they will all do it from the complete body like that. You're not going to see anybody doing this. Yes? Nobody moves a tray that way. Yes? Everybody does that. So if you can feel that in your hands, gentlemen, you'll know that you're satisfying the lady. So that is promenade and fall away position, counter promenade and counter fall away, because we have all those movements in the technique book now in this one. Counter fall away comes on the second part of the three fall aways, where you dance a normal fall away here, and now your second fall away, you're dancing it as lady. Yes? And then you pivot into line to do the third fall away. Yeah? Now, I know that's a little bit contentious again, because so many people do that as a side cross. But I don't think side crosses work, really, in the slow foxtrot, not in the movement part of it. Okay, you can do one from a hover feather or something like that and do that. It's a nice fill-up for the rhythm and so on. But I think in movement, to do this and then side cross and then try to go on really doesn't work as a feeling of freedom and knowledge of what you're doing in the fallaways. So that figure is also described fully, giving that feeling to it. Other definitions, we have to think about movement in which the lady is doing something completely different to the man. I'll be going over that in the next session of steps like telespins, same foot lunges, and so on. Because I think we must again try to understand how the lead is developed to allow the lady complete freedom to keep her movement going, to keep moving, because that's what ballroom dancing is, isn't it? Is movement. We want to move around the room. We want to look stronger and longer than anybody else. We want to have that feeling of covering the floor better than anybody else. Yes? And a lot of that is to do, again, with your own attitude and the way you stand and the way you're selling it out to the audience, which you can only do when you're free. If you're hanging on to your lady, you're not going to be selling yourself, are you? So we must have this feeling of freedom through finding our balance, being centered over the standing foot, and knowing when we want to move. Any questions? Yes.